Welcome to the Lost Boys to Found Fathers podcast. I'm Will Haycox, and joining me is my co-host, Gabe O'Sullivan. We're men who suffered the loss of a child, and through this production, we desire to offer encouragement, strength, and hope to our fellow brothers who've traveled the same journey. Morning, Gabe.
Good morning, sir. So we are going to be talking today about kind of the second half of the name of this podcast, which is Found Fathers. We're going to be throwing around some hopefully great wisdom and advice, not from us, but from God's Word about how to be great fathers. You know, certainly the main platform here, we're talking about child loss a lot. And what that usually indicates is that, you know, someone has obviously had an unfortunate incident like us where we may have lost a child or children. But usually coming out of that, most families try again and are successful, have successful pregnancies. And so we want to anticipate that and also use this platform to encourage guys how to be great dads and to do that from a biblical perspective. And so we're going to take a little bit of time and do that today. If I ask you to repeat yourself any today, it's because I can't hear much of anything. Me and some dudes went shooting last weekend, and AR-15s underneath a metal shed.
Great idea.
It was not very good. I got about 3 shots in, and all of a sudden everything went like away, sound-wise. Yeah,
It's like in the movies, when a bomb goes off.
Yeah, dude, and that's still like that. Like I feel like I tell my wife all week, I'm like, she's getting a little frustrated with me because I can't hear, and I'm like,
Gabe, come here.
Yeah.
Gabe, come here.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, sorry, honey. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not ignoring her. I just literally like, it feels like I have 2 solo cups like on my ears.
Nice.
And I feel like I talk with some speech challenges, and I feel like everybody around me also has those same speech difficulties right now. So I'm not sure if that's ever going to come back or not. Cool. But anyway,
so the moral of the story is ear protection.
Yeah, I had plugs in, but dude, they didn't. Next time I'm going like plugs and the
earmuffs,
and the things.
Ones that like cut out when there's too much noise. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, those things are nice.
That's what I'm gonna do. So anyway, I apologize ahead of time.
Sounds good.
If I ask you,
yeah, what? Yeah, I'll give a little more context to, and then we'll jump into this. Like you said, we covered a lot of the child loss topics, and some things about suffering and hope in the Lord, and how to comfort your wife and be comforted and all that. And we never want to move on from that, but we were talking before we started recording here. It's biblical to grow. It's biblical. The Bible says don't stay on the milk of the word, and like a baby needs milk, but when you grow up, you become a young man, you become a man. You need the good food, you need the meat. So we're not abandoning where we started. We're going to continue to talk about that and tie things back to child loss, but like Gabe said, we recognize that a lot of you guys out there already had a child when you experienced child loss, or you and your wife have had a child since then. You've adopted, whatever, but you are a father, and whether you have a child that's living here or not, you are a father, and we want to encourage you in that, and maybe give you some wisdom that we also need. Both of us are certainly not perfect fathers, but we want to just give you some encouragement and hope through the word of the Lord. So, Gabe, you want to start us off there?
Yeah, man. So, and kind of where this some of the verses we're going to be talking about today, some of the topics, honestly, it's just been coming from my personal home life, right, of God just really being on me, I think, recently, of like, hey, you personally need to be more gracious, loving, gentle, kind, like quit trying to be like your kid's coach all the time, and be more gentle with them. And so I want to be that way, right? I don't want to always, be like telling them to do wind sprints, figuratively speaking here, right? Like
figuratively speaking.
Dude, if I told them to, they'd be like, whatever, Dad. A, what's a wind sprint? And B, what are you talking about? That's the way that conversation.
I know where Gabe lives. I'm going to drive by and see if his kids are in the backyard doing wind sprints every time they get in trouble. Yeah.
Dude, I guarantee you that's not happening. We do have a little spot, though. The driveway's kind of long. Like, it would be pretty good. So this is totally an aside, and I'm sorry. That's kind of the way my mind works. When I was growing up, like from seventh grade, my parents moved kind of out in the country a little bit, and we had a really long driveway. And it was gravel for the most part, but eventually Dad got it paved. And the driveway itself was probably a quarter mile long or longer. And I'd be out there in the driveway, man, doing my wind sprints, because one Christmas I got some strength shoes. And strength shoes had to have a space, to do them. You had this full workout that you had to do. And so I'd be out there in the driveway, man, doing my wind sprints. So I've been there, kids.
Pass on that tradition.
That's right. I've been there. Suck it up. Like, my driveway was longer than ours. So yeah, I'm going to jump right in. 1 Thessalonians 2:11-12 was a really cool verse that I had read. And actually, I read it almost every day. I've got on my phone, I've got a little thing that says positive words or positive daily words or something. It's just on my notes. And it's a bunch of scriptures and some quotes that I found that were super cool to me. And then I've got like prayer lists and stuff on there too that I'll pray through, for each day of the week. And so this is one of the verses that I read every day. Actually, all these verses, I think, that we're going to read are part of that group that I read every day, or maybe 5 days a week. There's some days I just don't look at it. But so 1 Thessalonians 2:11-12 says, "For you know that we dealt with each of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory." And so one thing, several things, we're going to kind of pick apart this verse and then some others. It was, Paul writing to the church at Thessalonica, and him saying, like, this is how dads should be, okay? And because dads should be or are like this, or this is the ideal of a father, he was certainly saying, hey, this is how me and my pastor buddies, right, dealt with you as a church, as a young church. And I'm going to kind of go from the start to the finish here. So he said we should be encouraging. What does that mean to you, Will? You got a little girl, Bonnie. She's what, almost 3? Yeah. Now, so how do you find yourself being an encouraging, presence in her life?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably speak to this from a slightly different perspective because your daughter is a lot older. All your kids are older than Bonnie. But for me, I guess it looks like, I guess, not being critical. I come home from work and I'm tired, and I want to play with Bonnie, want to go have fun, let her climb around and play rough with her, or let her dress as a princess or whatever. She's in the stage of, like, she's got these play dresses, so like every day she's either Ariel or Cinderella or Elsa or whatever, one of these princesses, and she's got little slippers and she wears them all the time. She's silly, but encouraging her, I think, looks like when I don't feel like getting down on the floor and playing with her and letting her put on a dress when it's like it's time to eat. She's gonna, whatever, we're giving her a pizza or something that's got pizza sauce on it, and she's gonna drop some of it on that dress, and it's real. I don't even know if you can wash those things, but we're gonna ruin them. And I'm like, all right, Bonnie, you got to take that dress off. Like, I think encouraging looks more like, okay, so how do I figure out a way? We put a bib on her. We had these little things we used to use, like a backwards shirt. It's almost like an art
smock
protection
thing.
smock. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So, I mean, I think not just to be too specific, but in general, I think to me, encouraging her looks like, knowing she's 3 years old and she wants to explore, she wants to paint, she wants to build blocks and knock them over, she wants to, be in different dresses, or she wants to walk around. That day we watch a movie with a dinosaur in it, she wants to be a dinosaur, and she's growling walking through the house, rawr! And I think letting her do the things that a 3-year-old does, and when she gets frustrated or mad and she throws one of her wooden blocks across the room, grabbing her and saying, hey, Bon, this is not what we need to be doing. You need to be respectful to Mom and to Dad, and and this is not okay, you know, I'm going to take that block or whatever, but it's not just like, you better stop, you know, you need to straighten up, you need to quit playing with blocks, you know, I'm tired, I don't have time for you, this is ridiculous, just sit down, you know. I think it is, you know, telling her whether she understands it at 3 or not, you know. I think you're smart, you know, you're doing a good job learning how to play with these things, you know, giving her grace to go and play and have fun and be 3, you know, telling her she's beautiful, telling her, you know, she's loved and all of that stuff. I think, to me, just being encouraging to a 3-year-old looks like giving her space to be 3 and not expecting her to be 15 and able to, you know, you're being too loud. I need to study this thing. So please be quiet because Daddy has to do this right now. Like sometimes I expect that she understands logic, and then I'm like, oh yeah, she's 3. She doesn't understand logic. So yeah,
that's good, man.
I mean, I guess what do you think about that with older kids?
Yeah,
who maybe do understand some logic.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's yet to be determined. No, they're great. They're super smart. But yeah, so yeah, ours are 17, 12, and 7 now, and so I think with me, encouraging is the opposite of discouraging. You know, so it's kind of like you're saying, like let's say that one of them makes a mistake, right, or one of them doesn't do what we ask them to do. You know, I'll give you a perfect fail example of 2 nights ago. Yeah, it was 2 nights ago. My middle son, I told him specifically he wanted to watch some basketball. So, you know, this time of year that we're recording this, basketball season's just getting going. Some college basketball games on. He's like, it was after dinner. It was like, can we watch basketball? I was like, yes, absolutely. I was like, let's do that. I was like, you go upstairs, get ready for bed, brush your teeth. You got braces, get your rubber bands in. When all that's done, you come back down. We'll watch the basketball. So then he goes, takes a shower, PJ's on, comes back down, watch basketball for a while. Now it's time for him to go to bed. We go upstairs. I'm like, what are you doing? I got to brush my teeth. And I'm like, bro, an hour and a half ago, like we laid out, like this is what is expected of you. And I was not encouraging. You know, I was discouraging to him because I was just like, well, you know, I hate to say this, but I was like, why can't you remember what you're supposed to do, right? You're 12 years old. I shouldn't have to be giving you step-by-step instructions like you're a 3-year-old of what you're to do. You know what is expected of you, and I also told you that right before you go to bed. So I was not encouraging to him. I was discouraging to him because I was questioning his mental capacity, right? And kind of in those terms, like, why can't you remember this? Like, that's a very discouraging thing to say, because what that puts in his mind is maybe something is wrong with me that I can't remember, right? So the encouraging way to would have been, you know, to not say anything discouraging, number one, but then to be like reminding him, even if it has to be, you know, like firmly, but of like, you have the capacity to remember the instructions that I give you, and I need you to tap into that capacity, right? To be positive in even in my discipline or even in my firmness instead of negative in that. And so I'm, like you said, we're not perfect fathers, and man, I got a long way to go because unfortunately, I think I go back to my, you know, to my old, you know, lessons I learned from coaches that would just ride you to death, you know, and instead of biblical truth, which says, no, don't be discouraging and don't try to make a change in a child or a behavior or something by being discouraging, or we need to be encouraging, right? And so I want to be more encouraging as a father. Second point there says comforting. So it says, as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting. So how do we comfort our kids? How do you comfort a 3-year-old? How do I comfort, you know, the kids that are my age?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because she's in the stage of most of the time, like, Daddy can't do anything for her. So it's like she needs to put on her shirt. She needs to, you know, go to the bathroom, whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, Mommy help me. Mommy do this. Mommy do that. And so when I'm able to, I guess, I think comforting her just looks like, you know, if she falls and bangs her knee or something, you know, just picking her up, telling her I love her, and it'll be okay. Holding her, Daddy's got you. It's all right. We watch some Disney shows, and I guess some of them have like whatever, like I'm trying to think, like Cinderella or something, or what was that one? Sleeping Beauty, where the
evil
bad guy
lady
turns into what's her name? Maleficent turns into a dragon and blows all this fire at the prince, and she's like turns her head around, and she's like, "Oh, it's scary, it's scary," and like just telling her like it's okay, like Daddy's here, like I can take care of you, and you don't have to be scared. And so I think just for her young age, just like literally being there, literally holding her, or telling her like it's okay, Mom and Dad are big enough, we can protect you from this. And somebody in my family joked about a snake or something like that. She was coming. We were walking out of my grandparents' house. My parents' house. And I said something about, like, watch out for that hose over there. You don't trip. And they're like, oh, it's a snake. The snake's going to get you. And she doesn't even really know what a snake is. Like, she might have seen one in a zoo. But she'll just randomly be like, Daddy, I'm scared. And like, why are you scared? And she said, snakes are in my room.
Oh,
Bon,
man.
there's no snakes in your room.
Yeah.
And she's like, the snakes are going to get me? And like, no, the snakes are not going to get you. So, like, messing with her, and I guess that's like learning not to pick at a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old and tell her, like, hey, there's a snake there. But, yeah, I guess it's relatively easy at this age to just pick her up, hold her, tell her, I love you, I'll take care of you. And I think that's similar to what the Lord does with us, that when we're suffering, we're going through something, we might run to the corner, run to our closet, run back home, however you want to say that, and just be completely distraught, and we're crying, or we're just sitting on the couch and we don't know what to do. And whether that's a work situation or a marriage situation or some tragedy you deal with, if you're suffering, the Lord obviously doesn't literally pick you up, but He will come to you, be near to you, send a friend, a song on Pandora, something to you. And I'm not saying, like the Lord's up there like picking the playlist of what's going on Pandora, but I think there's intentionality and grace, provision there, however you want to say that the Lord is near to you and comforts you when you need it. And to be good fathers, I think we need to model that as well, and not just say, oh, there's no snake in your room, get over it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good, man. I think it's, really, in my stage of life too, it's very similar in that you said something a minute ago about I forget that my 3-year-old doesn't understand, reason or logic. And I think that as parents, we can often assume that our children understand how some things should be a big deal and some things shouldn't be a big deal because we've already been there, done that, and got through it, right? And but they don't, because when you're in the middle of it, it's a big deal to you. So that could be, if my older daughter has had an issue with a friend, at school or something, and then my wife and I, internally we could be like, oh, come on, man, like this is not that big a deal, like this is, and because we've been there, done that, and got through it, but when we were 16, 17 years old, the same situation would have been a big deal to us, right? So instead of being like, suck it up, get over it, you're going to be fine, in a situation like that with a friend at school, or with a 12-year-old still having nightmares almost every night, and and having to go and or a little one that's scared of like snakes in the room, right? Or my family went down to they were like at this beach resort a few months back, and I was not with them, but my wife was recounting the story of our 7-year-old out on this like float thing, kind of away from the shore, and it was like this little float. It was kind of tethered to the bottom of the ocean floor there, and he and his brother and his cousin were all on this thing, and I guess one of them looked down and they saw the tether lines, and they were like, "It's an octopus," and my little man apparently like froze. Like they jumped off the float and like took a beeline for the shore. And he was so scared, like he wouldn't move. He was stuck, man. He was stuck out there, 20 feet, 30 feet from the shore, whatever it was. And he was like panicking, crying, whatever. So, comforting there is going to him and be like, "Hey, it's okay. Like, let me help you get to shore, jump on my back or whatever." Or, right, the non-comforting thing would be like, "You big sissy, it's not a daggone octopus. Like, get your brother and your girl cousin made it. You can make it too." I hate to say it. There's times in my life I would have said something to that effect, right, and probably still do. But that's not a comforting way to be, right? It's meet them where they are and then help them get through that. And so as dads, we want to be encouraging, not discouraging. We want to be comforting, right, to our children, meet them where they are, and then help them to get through that, right, with our wisdom, our experience, our love, right, what we know from Scripture, what we know from our life experience. But we don't patronize them, we don't make fun of them, we don't shame them, right, in any way. We comfort them, and then we help them to move past it, because we don't want them to make a mountain out of a molehill every time, and we don't want to feed that either. Like, we want to teach them, like you just said earlier, about how to grow. Like, how do you grow through these circumstances, and how do you understand reality, that there are no snakes in your room, right, or there's not an octopus underneath you, out there, or that everybody at your lunch table doesn't hate you because they made one funny comment, about you or whatever. So
and I think too, like, looking at this verse, as a whole. For you know that we dealt with each of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory. I think, like, taking that, you made the encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God, you made that bold. I think looking at that, like, all together, as fathers, we should encourage our kids to live lives worthy of God, comfort them when they fail in that, and then I think urging them, I think that's like I think it's biblical to discipline children. God disciplines us. So I think, like, urging them to live lives worthy of God starts with, like, where I am, or even before now when Bonnie's 1 or 2, praying in front of her, talking about the Bible, talking about, what she's learning at Sunday school. It seems like it's funny, you take Sunday school sometimes, they're just in there playing games and, eating glue and all that fun stuff, like we did when we were in preschool and all that years ago. But
you were going to say, like we did yesterday at work.
Yeah, we did, last week, but how, like, you could take Elmer's glue and, like, pour it on your hands and it would dry, and it always felt weird and you could pick it off. I don't know, maybe I was one of those weird kids. I think I know at least a couple other people. I don't think I ate it either, but I do remember one kid, like, taking a bite out of that little purple stick that you run up, and like, wow, that's gonna be good for you. Oh, man. But you're gonna have some weird bowel movements later.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, so, like, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God. I think that's a biblical role of a father, is to put some pressure on your kids in a loving way, in an encouraging way, to put some pressure on your kids to measure up to the standard of the Lord, and not measure up to our standard as men that, to be a good kid, you have to get straight A's, or to be a good kid, you have to win the starting spot on the football team or the basketball team, or whatever. You got to get this award, you got to get in beta club, or you're a failure. Like, I think that's urging them to meet your goals and your standards in an unbiblical way, and then being discouraging instead of encouraging, and putting this standard on your kids that is either not achievable, or when it's achievable, that's the only thing they get their worth from. I think that is wrong.
Ooh,
but I think it is right to say, like, there's a standard here that the Bible gives me as a parent, and part of that standard is calling you to live a life worthy of God, and that comes with these requirements, or these things, exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit. You exhibit that, you should, and I say you as in me too, I should exhibit the fruit of the Spirit to my daughter, and in that way, teach her what it means to live a life worthy of God. And even when I fail, come to her and apologize and say, hey, I yelled at you the other day, or I wasn't patient with you, and whatever, I wasn't comforting to you. I expected you to do this thing and you didn't do it, and I was mad about it. And so I think there's, living a life worthy of God is a duty for dads to do and for us to teach our kids in a, it's a serious thing. It's not just, it doesn't say and asking your kids to live lives worthy of God.
Yeah,
it's like urging them.
Yeah.
Like, this is important. As a man, as a father, I'm called to lead my family well, and that part of that is to hold them up to the standard of the Lord. So I think there's, be encouraging, be comforting, but in your encouragement and your comfort, help them see what the standard of the Lord is, and don't expect them to get to be 12 years old or 15 years old, and then they start hearing, or maybe even these days, 8 years old, 9 year old, 10 years old, you start getting some influences of the world, for school that are telling you, this is what a man and a woman are. You don't have to be married to live together. You whatever. You can define your own identity. You can, your truth and all this stuff. And then you're like, oh, God has something to say about that, and I'm going to teach you about it now. It's like, no, you're urging them to live lives worthy of God from the beginning. And I think that's an important part of being a father. Is you're not sitting down, holding your kid when they're sad and telling them they're the best and not holding them to a standard. It's not about a everyone gets a trophy sort of mentality, or everyone is the best. Everyone, every child can be an astronaut. Every child can be the president of the United States. Like, yeah, in one sense, and it's true, and it's good to encourage your kids, but also push them to be people who live lives worthy of the Lord. So,
I love it, man. I'm gonna throw in a few things on that too. First of all, a silly thing. You said not every kid can be an astronaut. So I don't think I've ever told this story on here, and I hope not. But you probably you don't remember it anyway. So me and my buddies went to Clemson together. Some guys from high school, and we roomed together.
I was probably like 3.
And that is true. Yeah.
Maybe older.
This was 97,
okay.
98.
Yeah, I was 6, 7. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So 97, 98. We're staying at CC2. Big ups to CC2. Fancy place now. It was not so fancy when we were staying there. They've redone it. So one of my buddies, Jason Jones, shout out to JJ, he was dating this girl, and he was talking to her on the phone one day, and I'm sitting on the couch working on a laptop. We actually did have computers back then, Will. We had laptop computers back then.
The size of this desk. Yeah.
It was yeah. Probably obviously not as powerful as the ones are now.
Had to pull the vacuum tube out the back of it to make it work. Yeah.
That's hurtful, man.
Sorry, I'm dating you a little
bit there.
So
so I'm sitting on the couch doing some writing a paper or whatever, and so Jason's talking on the phone to this girl. We actually had a phone, not a cell phone. We had a phone, but it was a cordless phone.
I remember those.
Okay, yeah, it's a cordless phone. So he's walking around the apartment there talking to this girl, and then so I just heard him say, "So what do you want to do? When you get out of school or whatever?" Because she was going to a local school, she wasn't enrolled at Clemson, just enrolled at Tri-County Tech or whatever, right near Clemson, to kind of bridge into Clemson. And so he asked her, and then he busts out laughing, and then he goes, "Oh, I mean, no, that's." I think an astronaut's a great career field that you should, you really need to, explore that. I'm sure that'll happen for you.
But that relationship went well.
That did not go very well so he's backing up business, man, trying to cover his bases well. She actually does not completely just, dump him right then, and they continue talking. Maybe a week later, she comes over for dinner. So we cooked a lot together, man. I'll say we were like a firehouse, man. We're always cooking together as a group, and like they did at the firehouses or whatever. So we cook a big dinner, and my other buddy David Butler, shout out to ODB. He's sitting at one end of the table. I'm sitting at the other end of the table. Jason and this girl are sitting beside each other. Our other buddy Matt, that was rooming with us, was sitting there too. And I looked over at David, and I just kind of gave him a little eyebrow. And I was like, David, these mashed potatoes are out of this world. And Jason immediately like called on, looked up, and looked at both of us, and was like, I'm gonna murder you guys. And and then David was like, he just smiled and was like, dude, I would go to the moon and back to eat this chicken again. And so we like about 3 or 4 things, and Jason, you just see Jason's like, like temperature boiling or whatever. And yeah, after she left, like, man, that dude lit into us, man. He was like, yeah, you guys are the worst. I hate you guys. So anyway, man, that was a long story to say. Not all your kids are going to be astronauts.
But that woman's like the director of the NASA right now.
She probably is, man.
She's going to listen to this and send you a strongly worded email.
That is so true. You're probably exactly right.
She might be the leader of Space Force. Who knows?
Dude, she very well could be, man. And we're sitting here clowning on her. And she's like, yeah, look what you. And
Joke's on you. Yeah.
Right. She's sending a drone to our house today to destroy it or something like that. So. So a couple things just in regard to getting back to seriousness of what you said, something that I've been, really, 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 Lord just been laying on my heart is, not only to hold my kids up to that, like you said, to that standard of the Lord, which is so good, but to let them understand kind of why they're doing that, right? That it's not that we're trying to live a certain way, like for self-righteousness or like to prove our worthiness, to God, to earn his love or earn his salvation, but that our lives should just reflect our relationship with the Lord, right? That out of our relationship with him and out of our understanding of who he is and who we are in regard to him and what his scripture says, that out of that relationship comes the way that we live, right? Our behavior isn't just, it should not just be to, not get into trouble or to just put up some kind of front of like we're this holier than thou person, but then our heart's not matching that, kind of like I've been talking with some of my kids recently, like you don't just try to get good grades on a test to get good grades on a test. Like hopefully you've actually been learning the material. The school was not just about getting good grades. Like school is about actually learning how to learn, and it's about learning how to learn what you're learn actually what the teacher's teaching, so that way you've just got some knowledge to then allow that to help you later in life, and then out of that learning should come a good grade on a test because you just know the stuff. Now, man, did I think that way when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? No, I did not, man. It was just, but I'm hoping that, again, now as a father, like going through life, like that we can pass that on. And same thing with urging to live a life worthy of God. Like it is our responsibility, is our call as men of the household to disciple our children. Like I think about like this situation. Like you and I, we meet once a month. We record these shows. I meet with another dude that we're going through discipleship thing on Mondays for 30 minutes. I meet with another dude that I'm working with on Wednesdays. That we're working through a discipleship thing together. And I am not that consistent with my children. I'm like, okay, hey, nope, you're not at basketball, you're not at football, I'm done with my work for the evening. We're actually sitting here around the dinner table 1 out of 7 nights, that we're not all in a bazillion different directions. Okay, let's do a 5-minute devotion right here, together, and pray that my 2 boys don't turn into like some type of maniac children, and start freaking out and throw the whole thing off the rails, during the time period. And so, but we're called to disciple our kids, and that's where we're again urging them to live lives worthy of God through that discipleship. That is the main way that we let them know, hey, this is how we know who God is, right? Through reading his word and through prayer. This is how we know what he wants of us, what he expects of us. And then how do we live our lives out of the outflow of that relationship with him? Like it's our job as men of the household to do that, right? And we've got to be intentional about it, right? So I'm looking at my calendar. I'm like, okay, when can we do that? Like what night can we do that? I'll tell you, my dad was really good about it. 7:20 every morning when we were in school and stuff, we were supposed to be downstairs at the kitchen table, and it was a 5-minute thing where he would pray, read a short devotion with us, and then we'd be off to school and he'd be off to work, kind of thing. But like, I give him props for that because he was real consistent in that, and there was no questions. It was like, you don't sleep in, like you have your butt downstairs, because that was his intentional time, that we had every weekday, every school day. Now, we weren't as consistent in the summer and that kind of thing, but I've got that model from my past that I need to figure out how to implement in my life, because I want my kids to know the Lord, and I want them to have a deep relationship with Him, where they love Him and they honor Him, with their lives. And out of the outflow of that, should come a life that is worthy of Him.
Yeah, man, that's some good stuff. So I appreciate you guys listening to this today. We're going to have some more episodes coming out about the rest of these verses and just some encouragement from the Lord. We appreciate you listening to Lost Boys to Found Fathers. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out Gabe's books. We got That Will Be Done is on Amazon still. Just check it out. It's a great book. We've used some of it for content. And check out the latest book is Every Little Thing, 6 Small Steps to Perfect Peace. And you can find that on Amazon and
BarnesandNoble.com, Apple Books, and I saw it on ChristianBook.com.
Cool. Yeah.
Don't know how that happened, but go get it. Yeah.
Getting big, man. Getting big.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you next time.